If you're a Gojo fan, trust me, you'll want to watch this video. Gojo Satoru is coming back. Now pause for a moment, because I know your immediate response is going to say cope, coping, or copium, since it's the current buzzword going around the anime community now. But in this video, I'll be showing you all the breadcrumbs and hard evidence that Akutami has been leaving out for us since the beginning. As you can probably imagine, a large majority of this theory is going to revolve around Nanami's line to Gojo: if you want to start anew, head north. If you want to return to your old self, head south. This single line is the key to everything. Now, Akutami has not shied away from his references to Buddha throughout the entire series. The most well-known moment is Gojo's iconic line, "Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one." However, what a lot of people don't know about this scene is that this wasn't the enlightenment moment that everyone thought it was, because Akutami actually meant it as a moment of arrogance. As Akutami states himself, this seems to have various connotations, but I like using it in the arrogant sense of the phrase. Why is this relevant? This means that Gojo actually hasn't had his true enlightenment, nor has he been truly reborn yet, which brings up the main point of this video. Can Gojo be reborn now? If Gojo goes north, he'll be reborn and enlightened. Now let's reference back to the scriptures from Buddha. It is said that immediately after Gautama's birth, Buddha comes in many different names, and Gautama is one of them. He stood up, took 7 steps north, and uttered, "I am the chief of the world, eldest in the world. This is the last birth." This is incredibly important. First off, let's point out the obvious. Buddha headed north instead of south, just like Gojo's options now. Next point, taking specifically 7 steps north. Now let's flash back to Gojo's afterlife scene with his friends. Here we see 7 lotus flowers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the last one is hidden behind the text box here. Now you might be thinking, still a bit of a stretch, right? Well, let's read further into the excerpt from Buddha's birth. "Every place the baby Gautama placed his foot, a lotus flower bloomed. 7 steps north, which each step blooming lotus flowers, and 7 lotus flowers being shown in Gojo's afterlife." Seems to match up pretty well to me. Now, the next part is actually going to involve Kashimo Hajime. Yes, the father who got slapped up in 2 chapters and spent his last moments collating Sukuna, calling him beautiful, and everything else of that nature. Surprisingly, he has a place in this theory. If we take the kanji of his name, it actually translates to something very interesting. First is the word deer, which in Buddhism symbolizes peace, harmony, and longevity. Next kanji is purple, and the last is cloud. In other words, a purple cloud. In Buddhism, Amida Buddha rides on in a purple cloud at the time of one's death. Not only is Amitabha accompanied by a large group, aka the Jujutsu crew, but the group usually involves musicians. Does that sound familiar to you? It should, because if Hikari hits his jackpot, well, we get that live music again. Lastly, in Buddhism, merit determines the quality of your next life and steps towards enlightenment, and we know that Gojo has more than enough positive merits with everything he's done in his life. That means that Gojo's rebirth will finally be his true awakening. Now we know that the one thing that would have made Gojo completely satisfied is a pat on the back from Geto. So if Gojo sits on the precipice of going north and south in the afterlife, and Geto pats him on the back to push him north, then Gojo would have had everything he needed in the afterlife and satisfied to return to the world of living. Except this time, just like Sukuna no longer mocked Gojo's title after defeating him, he won't come back as Gojo Satoru the strongest, but instead simply as Gojo Satoru, bringing his character arc to a finish as he finally answers the question Geto asked: are you Gojo Satoru because you're the strongest, or are you the strongest because you're Gojo Satoru? Now again, I know there's going to be plenty of NPCs out there who are just going to say cope. But at the end of the day, if we provide a substantial theory and back it up with a lot of evidence, it doesn't really sound like cope to me. It sounds like hope. Now, some people might be wondering, if Gojo comes back, how in God's green earth is he actually going to stand up to Sukuna, since Sukuna can cut through infinity now? Well, as we saw in chapter 238, Kashimo was still able to dodge Sukuna's dismantle, so also brings up the theory, of course, that maybe Gojo was just caught off guard because he thought dismantle wasn't going to cut through infinity, which is why he maybe just kind of stood there, which sounds a bit odd, but again, maybe we'll get some more substantiation later. But regardless, if Kashimo can dodge it, more than likely Gojo could as well. The other theory, of course, is that he will sacrifice his 6 eyes in order to bring himself back, and therefore also giving up the title the strongest, not only because he can't stand up to Sukuna, but because his 6 eyes and Limitless is what granted him the strength to be labeled as the strongest in the first place. Regardless, a lot of people seem to think that Gojo fans think. If Gojo's going to come back, he's just going to absolutely wipe the floor with Sukuna. Majority of us don't think that. Majority of us think that if Gojo is going to come back, he's going to come back and fight alongside the rest of the Jujutsu crew in order to take Sukuna down. Because to me, this makes the most sense. How else would the entire Jujutsu crew not only fight off a high-end era Sukuna, who is stronger than he ever was before, arguably stronger than Tenchiao's curse technique, since really that was used more just to bypass infinity rather than just as an actual strength or AP feat for that nature. But also, how would they fight that Sukuna and then go on to fight Kenjaku, who is going to merge Tengen with the rest of Japan and become a being that is supposedly there and not there? Sounds cryptic, but arguably going to be very powerful. To me, it seems a little contrived that the entire Jujutsu crew would suddenly just power up and be able to take all of them on, and all of these new fights and all these new battles, suddenly they're going to get so many power-ups, they're going to put them over Sukuna and Kenjaku. To me, it makes more sense if Gojo comes back, and since he's no longer the strongest, fights along everyone else in order to kind of edge out Sukuna barely, and then, just like Demon Slayer, all kind of team up together to take out Kenjaku. To me, that makes more sense, makes it a lot less contrived, but for some reason, people seem to have a problem with that. Regardless, this is my theory on how Gojo comes back. To me, it makes the most sense, but what do you guys think? Do you think this is, again, just cope, or is there possible hope that Gojo is actually going to come back? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and if you like this video, like and subscribe. We're going to have a lot more long-form content here. I know a lot of you guys are coming from TikTok. Well, if you want these more in-depth breakdowns, not that are a minute or two long, and have fire editing like this, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll also do more live streams here, so I'll see you guys around.